Toddler rushes to hug Pizza Man goodbye. Then boy's mother makes tragic discovery. When a tiny toddler rushed out to hug the pizza delivery guy, no one thought much of it, until his mother uncovered a heartbreaking truth that changed everything. Lindsay Sheely loved the quiet predictability of her life in West Warwick, Rhode Island, a small town where everyone knew each other, where the rhythm of life followed the steady beat of familiar routines. She was a devoted mother to her 2-year-old son, Cohen, and despite the daily challenges of parenting, she cherished every fleeting moment. That evening was no different. The sun had already dipped below the horizon, casting a soft, amber glow through the windows of their cozy suburban home. The aroma of freshly brewed tea filled the air as Lindsay set the dinner table, glancing occasionally at Cohen, who was sprawled on the floor, engrossed in his favorite toy trucks. The soft hum of the dishwasher blended with the distant murmur of the television, creating a comforting background noise that made the house feel warm and alive. Dinner plans were simple tonight. Pizza, their usual choice from Wicked Good Pizza, a local joint they had been ordering from for years. Lindsay had placed the order effortlessly through the app, and now all that remained was the waiting. It was a routine they knew well. Order, wait, eat, enjoy. She smiled to herself, savoring the stillness before the arrival of dinner would bring a burst of energy from Cohen, who was always overly excited when the doorbell rang. Cohen was a whirlwind of curiosity and affection. A child with boundless energy and an open heart, he had an uncanny ability to make people smile, whether it was hugging the neighbor's dog too tightly or offering a toothy grin to strangers at the park. Lindsay often found herself wondering where he got such an innate sense of kindness. Tonight was no exception. As soon as the familiar chime of the doorbell echoed through the house, Cohen's head shot up, eyes wide with excitement. "Pizza's here," Lindsay called out, though she didn't need to. Cohen was already on his feet, his tiny socks skidding across the hardwood floor as he raced to the door, arms outstretched as if preparing for takeoff. Lindsay followed with a chuckle, expecting to find the usual delivery exchange. A quick handoff, a polite thank you, and then dinner. But tonight, something different was about to unfold. She opened the door to find a familiar face, Ryan's son, the regular delivery guy. He was dressed in the standard red polo with the Wicked Good Pizza logo embroidered on the chest. His expression was polite but distant, a tired smile flickering across his lips as he handed over the pizza box. He looked like he'd had a long day, the weight of fatigue etched into the lines around his eyes. Then, without warning, Cohen bolted forward. In an instant, before Lindsay could react, Cohen wrapped his tiny arms around Ryan's legs, pressing his cheek against the fabric of his uniform pants. The delivery driver stiffened, clearly caught off guard. There was a beat of silence, long enough for Lindsay to feel the need to intervene. But then something remarkable happened. Ryan hesitated only for a moment before he knelt down, his expression softening. A flicker of emotion crossed his face, something Lindsay couldn't quite put her finger on. He wrapped his arms around Cohen gently, holding the little boy for just a moment longer than expected. There was no awkwardness, no hesitation, just warmth. "Thanks, little buddy," Ryan murmured, his voice thick with something Lindsay couldn't place. She watched, feeling a tug at her heartstrings. It was such a simple moment, yet it carried a weight that hung in the air between them. After Ryan stood and stepped back, his tired smile seemed a little less strained. He nodded at Lindsay, whispering a quiet, "Have a good night," before walking back toward his car. Cohen, still beaming, waved enthusiastically after him until the taillights disappeared down the street. Lindsay closed the door and set the pizza box down, glancing at Cohen with a bemused smile. "You sure do love making friends, don't you?" she teased, ruffling his hair. As she walked into the living room, she glanced at her phone, noticing a notification from their doorbell camera. Out of curiosity, she tapped on it, replaying the footage of Cohen's spontaneous hug. Watching it again, she realized just how sweet and pure the moment had been. Later that night, after Cohen was tucked into bed and the house had settled into its familiar nighttime quiet, Lindsay sat on the couch scrolling through her phone. The video from the doorbell camera played on a loop in her head. Cohen's innocent joy, Ryan's surprised but grateful reaction. Something about it tugged at her heart. With a lighthearted chuckle, She decided to share the video on her social media. She typed out a playful caption. Cohen's spreading his love, one pizza delivery at a time. We should all be more like him. She hit post, expecting a few friends and family members to comment with heart emojis or the occasional "so sweet" remark. Within minutes, the notifications started rolling in. Oh my gosh, Lindsay, this is the cutest thing ever. Cohen is such a sweetheart. We need more little Cohen hugs in the world. Lindsay smiled as she read through the comments, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. She never imagined such a small moment could resonate with people in such a big way. As she put her phone down and curled up on the couch, she had no idea that the video was about to take on a life of its own. What started as a simple, innocent hug would soon reveal a much deeper story, one that Lindsay could never have predicted. A few days had passed since Lindsay uploaded the heartwarming video of Cohen hugging the pizza delivery man. The video had taken on a life of its own, with likes, shares, and comments pouring in from friends and acquaintances. Each notification brought a little thrill, reminding Lindsay of how a small, innocent act could bring so much joy to others. Then, late one evening, as she scrolled through her notifications, a new message popped up. The name at the top of the screen made her pause. Ryan Son. Her heart skipped a beat. She clicked on the message, her fingers suddenly feeling unsteady. The words were simple, but carried an unmistakable weight. Hi, Lindsay, I saw the video you posted. It really meant a lot to me. Would you mind if I shared it on my page? Lindsay stared at the message, rereading it several times. There was something about the way he phrased it. It meant a lot to me that stirred her curiosity. It wasn't just gratitude. There was something deeper hidden within those few words. She quickly typed a reply. Of course, Ryan. I'm so glad it brought a smile to your face. Feel free to share. But as she hit send, a nagging feeling settled in her chest. Why did it mean so much to him? Unable to shake the thought, Lindsay tapped on Ryan's profile, curiosity getting the better of her. She scrolled past the usual profile pictures and pizza-related posts until her eyes landed on something that made her breath hitch. A post from just a week ago. A picture of a young girl, blonde hair cascading over her shoulders, eyes filled with life and laughter. The caption beneath it struck like a lightning bolt to Lindsay's heart. Alyssa, my angel. It's been a week since you left, and I still don't know how to go on without you. Lindsay's fingers hovered over the screen as she scrolled through more posts. Each one painted a picture of profound grief. Photos of Ryan with his daughter, at the beach, at school events, laughing together, now felt like remnants of a life he had lost too soon. I miss you more every day, sweetheart. I hope you're watching over me. The more Lindsay read, the deeper the ache in her chest grew. Alyssa, Ryan's daughter, had passed away just days before their brief encounter at her doorstep. Lindsay felt a lump form in her throat as she pieced together the painful reality. Cohen's innocent hug hadn't just been a random act of kindness. It had meant something much, much more to Ryan. The realization hit her like a wave. That hug had been a lifeline, a reminder of something Ryan had lost forever. She sat back, overwhelmed by a mix of emotions, sadness, empathy, and a deep sense of connection she hadn't expected. For Ryan, the days after Alyssa's passing had blurred together in an endless loop of grief. The silence in his home was deafening. No laughter, no footsteps running down the hall, no music playing from her room. Each morning, he woke up with the same hollow ache in his chest, and each night, he fell asleep clutching an old stuffed bear that once belonged to her. Delivering pizzas became his escape. It was something to fill the long hours, to keep his mind occupied. The mindless routine, the constant movement, it all helped him avoid the black hole of sorrow threatening to consume him. But no matter how much he worked, the pain lingered like a shadow. The absence of Alyssa was in everything. The songs on the radio, the faces of teenagers on the street, the way the leaves crunched underfoot just like they used to when they walked home from school together. The night he delivered pizza to Lindsay's house had been no different. He had been going through the motions, forcing a smile, counting the minutes until his shift ended. But then, Cohen had rushed at him, arms wide, heart open. And for the first time in what felt like forever, Ryan felt something break through the darkness. That tiny, spontaneous hug had been more than just a kind gesture. It had been a reminder that love still existed in the world, that warmth could find him even in the most unexpected of places. In that fleeting moment, he felt as if Alyssa was still with him, watching, sending him a message he so desperately needed. Lindsay couldn't stop thinking about what she had learned. She sat in silence, staring at the screen, feeling the weight of Ryan's loss pressing against her chest. She looked down at Cohen, who was curled up next to her on the couch, completely unaware of the profound impact his tiny arms had made on a grieving stranger. She knew she had to do something more. Taking a deep breath, she picked up her phone and opened the video post once again. Her fingers hesitated for a moment before she added an update. I wanted to share something that makes this moment even more special. The delivery driver in this video recently lost his daughter, and Cohen's hug meant more to him than we could have ever imagined. It's a reminder that even the smallest acts of kindness can touch hearts in ways we never expect. Please send love and support his way. Lindsay hit post and watched as the comments flooded in. Messages of love, support, and encouragement poured in from strangers who had been touched by the story. People shared their own experiences of grief, how a simple hug or a kind word had helped them through their darkest days. Within hours, the post had gone viral, reaching beyond their small town, touching hearts across the country. Ryan sent another message that evening. Lindsay, I don't know how to thank you. The kindness from everyone has been overwhelming. I just wanted you to know that Cohen's hug, it reminded me that there's still goodness in the world. Thank you for sharing our story. Tears welled up in Lindsay's eyes as she typed her reply. You're not alone, Ryan. We're all here for you. She glanced at Cohen, who was now peacefully asleep, and whispered softly, You have no idea how much good you've done, little guy. The story continued to gain traction. News outlets picked it up, sharing the touching interaction across platforms. Local businesses reached out to Ryan, offering support, and grief support groups in the area invited him to join. Messages flooded in from people who had lost loved ones, expressing how Cohen's simple hug had reminded them to hold on to hope. Ryan, who had once felt so isolated in his pain, suddenly found himself surrounded by compassion. And in that, he found the strength to start healing. Meanwhile, Lindsay realized just how powerful human connection could be. In a world often consumed by negativity, one small child had managed to create a ripple effect of kindness. And all it took was a single hug. The moment lingered in Lindsay's mind long after she put down her phone. She couldn't shake the thought of Ryan, sitting alone somewhere, carrying the unbearable weight of grief. The video had touched thousands, but to him, it had been more than just a fleeting moment of kindness. It had been a lifeline. After a long internal debate, Lindsay decided to reach out again. She opened the message thread and typed carefully, her fingers pausing before hitting send. Hi Ryan, I just wanted to check in on you. I can't imagine what you're going through, but I want you to know that Cohen and I are thinking of you. A response came quicker than she expected. Thank you, Lindsay. I can't explain it, but that hug, it meant the world to me. For a brief moment, I felt like Alyssa was still here, reaching out to me through him. I don't think I'll ever be able to express how grateful I am. Lindsay's chest tightened as she read his words. She took a deep breath and typed back, If there's anything we can do, let us know. Cohen has no idea how much he's helped you, but I do. Maybe we can meet up sometime. After a brief pause, Ryan responded, I'd like that. From that moment on, Lindsay and Ryan's conversations became more frequent. They shared stories. Lindsay spoke about Cohen's quirks and the chaos of motherhood, while Ryan reminisced about Alyssa, her dreams, and the little things he missed most about her. He told Lindsay how Alyssa had always been the one to remind him of the beauty in small moments, and how Cohen's hug had been a reminder of her very essence. As their bond grew, an idea began to take shape. What if this story could help others struggling with loss? Lindsay's update about Ryan's story had already captured the hearts of thousands, but soon it started to spread beyond her small circle. News outlets picked up the post, and before she knew it, reporters were reaching out to her for interviews. One evening, as she sat scrolling through her notifications, an email popped up with a subject line that made her heart skip a beat. Good morning, America. We'd love to share your story." Lindsay's hands trembled as she read the email. The producers wanted to feature Cohen and Ryan's story on national television, believing it could inspire others and shed light on the power of human connection. When she told Ryan about it, he hesitated. "I'm not sure I'm ready to put all of this out there," he admitted. "It still feels so raw." Lindsay reassured him, "It's your story, Ryan. We don't have to do anything you're not comfortable with. But maybe it could help others who are feeling lost, just like you were." After a long pause, Ryan finally agreed. "If it can bring even one person a little comfort, then maybe it's worth it." The interview aired a week later. Millions watched as Lindsay recounted the innocent moment of Cohen's hug, and Ryan shared his experience of grief and healing. Messages flooded in from strangers, people who had lost loved ones, parents who related to Ryan's pain, and even those who had been inspired to reach out to their own family and friends after watching. Charitable organizations reached out, offering grief counseling resources, and even setting up support networks for parents like Ryan who were navigating life after loss. Lindsay's inbox overflowed with messages from people who had experienced loss, each sharing how a simple act of kindness had once touched their lives. It was overwhelming, but it was beautiful. As the weeks passed, something shifted within Ryan. He found himself looking forward to his messages with Lindsay and the occasional video calls with Cohen, who always had a goofy smile and an innocent question to ask. He no longer felt like he was drowning in grief. The ache of losing Alyssa would never fully fade, but for the first time in a long time, he felt like he could breathe again. One day, Ryan sent Lindsay a simple message that made her tear up instantly. "I think Cohen is my little angel on earth." They finally arranged to meet in person again. This time, Ryan wasn't just delivering pizza. He came as a friend, and when Cohen ran to him once more, Ryan knelt down and hugged him tightly. "Hey, buddy," he whispered, a soft smile tugging at his lips. "Thanks for being my little hero." Cohen, in his usual innocent way, giggled and whispered back, "You're welcome." Seeing them together, Lindsay knew in her heart that this was more than just a passing moment. This was a connection that would last a lifetime. Inspired by everything that had happened, Lindsay and Ryan decided they wanted to do more. They began collaborating with local charities to raise awareness about grief support and the importance of small acts of kindness. Together, they organized a charity event called Hugs for Hope, dedicated to Alyssa's memory and aimed at supporting grieving families. The event featured guest speakers, mental health resources, and a space for people to share their own experiences. The turnout was beyond anything they could have imagined. People came from all over, many carrying photos of their lost loved ones, grateful for a place to share their pain and find comfort. Ryan spoke at the event, his voice shaking but filled with hope. "A hug from a stranger changed everything for me," he told the crowd. "It reminded me that even in the darkest moments, kindness can find you. And I believe my daughter, Alyssa, sent me that hug through Cohen." Lindsay stood beside him, holding Cohen's tiny hand in hers, overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of love in the room. In the following months, their story continued to touch lives in ways they never imagined. They were invited to speak at schools, churches, and support groups, spreading the message that kindness, no matter how small, could have a lasting impact. And through it all, Cohen remained blissfully unaware of the profound effect he had on so many. One night, as Lindsay tucked him into bed, she whispered softly, "You're changing the world, little one." Cohen blinked sleepily and murmured, "Because of my hugs?" Lindsay smiled, tears welling in her eyes. "Yes, baby, because of your hugs." As Ryan continued to heal and Lindsay watched Cohen grow, they realized that life was a tapestry woven with unexpected moments and connections. What had started as an ordinary pizza delivery had turned into a movement of love and hope. And as long as there were people like Cohen in the world, people who gave love freely and without expectation, there would always be light in the darkness. The smallest acts could indeed create the biggest ripples. As the weeks passed and the story continued to touch hearts around the world, Lindsay often found herself reflecting on the profound impact that one small act of kindness had created. She never imagined that a single, spontaneous hug from her 2-year-old son could ripple out in such an extraordinary way. But it did, and it changed lives. In quiet moments, when Cohen was asleep and the house was still, Lindsay would sit with a cup of tea and scroll through the countless messages she had received. People from all walks of life, mothers, fathers, siblings, and even strangers, shared their own experiences of loss, healing, and hope. It was in those moments that she realized a profound truth. Small acts of kindness have the power to create a monumental impact. Cohen's hug, innocent and unassuming, had become something far greater than Lindsay ever anticipated. A hug, just a simple gesture, had reached into the depths of Ryan's sorrow and pulled him back toward hope. It reminded him that, even in his darkest hours, he wasn't alone. And it reminded the world that, sometimes, it's the smallest things that hold the most meaning. Lindsay couldn't help but wonder, how many moments like this are missed every day? How many times do people walk past each other, too caught up in their own worlds to realize that someone next to them might need just a little kindness to keep going? It was a lesson she carried with her in everything she did, whether it was smiling at a stranger in the grocery store or taking an extra moment to check in on a friend. Lindsay learned that no act of kindness is ever too small. And for Ryan, that one hug from Cohen had done what words and time could not. It had softened his grief, even if just for a moment. As the story spread, one thing became abundantly clear. Compassion is what binds us all together. In a world often divided by differences, Cohen's simple hug was a reminder that love and kindness can bridge even the widest gaps. It didn't matter that Ryan was a stranger when he arrived at Lindsay's door. It didn't matter that Cohen, in his innocent understanding of the world, had no idea of Ryan's pain. What mattered was the connection formed in that moment, one that transcended age, experience, and circumstance. Ryan later shared in an interview that hug, it reminded me that even when you feel completely alone, there are people out there who care. It made me realize that my daughter's kindness is still alive in the world, in places I never expected. Lindsay came to believe that acts of kindness, no matter how fleeting, have a way of weaving people together, sometimes for a moment, sometimes for a lifetime. And Cohen, without knowing it, had become a beacon of that truth. Even strangers who had watched the viral video felt it. The comments they received weren't just words of encouragement. They were testaments to the shared human experience. I lost my brother last year, and I didn't realize how much I needed to see this. This hug reminded me to be kinder to people. You never know what someone is going through. Thank you for sharing this. It brought me comfort in ways I can't explain. The connection, the understanding, the empathy, those were the gifts Cohen had unknowingly given. Through it all, Ryan learned a hard but beautiful lesson. Loss is inevitable, but love endures. For months after Alyssa's passing, Ryan had struggled to find purpose. Every object in his home, every sound, every routine reminded him of what he had lost. He had been stuck in the in-between, wanting to move forward but feeling guilty for doing so. But Cohen's hug had shifted something inside him. It didn't erase the pain, but it allowed him to see the world differently. Instead of being trapped in the past, Ryan began to focus on honoring Alyssa's memory in the present. He realized that love wasn't something that disappeared with loss. It was something that lived on, in moments big and small. And it wasn't just about remembering Alyssa, but about sharing that love with others, about being present for those still in his life. Lindsay, too, found herself cherishing every hug, every giggle, and every bedtime story with Cohen just a little more. She learned that love, when given freely and without expectation, is the most precious gift of all. From that moment on, she vowed to never take a single day for granted. Because if Cohen had taught her anything, it was that the smallest moments often mean the most. As the story continued to gain traction, something remarkable happened. People from across the globe reached out, not just with words of support, but with tangible actions. Local businesses offered donations to grief support organizations in Alyssa's name. Schools began talking about the importance of kindness, using Cohen's story as an example of how a single moment can change lives. Ryan, who had once felt isolated in his grief, now found himself surrounded by an outpouring of support. He had built an online community with others who had experienced similar losses, creating a safe space for them to share their stories and support one another. In an emotional update, Ryan shared, "For the first time since losing Alyssa, I don't feel alone anymore." And it all started with one little boy who didn't even know how much he was helping. The kindness Cohen sparked had become a movement, one that reminded everyone that healing doesn't happen in isolation. It happens when people come together, when they show up for one another, when they offer love without expectation. And in the end, it wasn't just about Cohen's hug or Ryan's grief. It was about all of us, the way we connect, the way we heal, and the way we can lift each other up, even in the smallest ways. As Lindsay reflected on everything that had happened, she realized that life is full of unexpected moments, both beautiful and painful. But what matters most is how we respond to them. She looked at Cohen, who was busy stacking his toy blocks on the living room floor, completely unaware of the impact he had made. And she whispered softly, "You've done something amazing, little one." Though Cohen didn't fully understand, in his own way, he did. He looked up at his mom with a smile and said, "More hugs?" Lindsay laughed, hugging him tightly. "Always. Because in the end, kindness is always the answer. And sometimes the smallest hands hold the biggest lessons."